Everybody and their cat is doing a rebrand. It's literally everywhere. But are you not doing it just because it's a trend, or do you actually understand what it really is? Today, we're breaking it all down, understanding what it is and if it's even what you should be doing.
As a business owner, your business runs through the identity that you hold. It runs through how you see yourself, how you carry yourself. And I do get the concept of a rebrand, because you think it's easy to change a couple of pictures, the color grade of your pictures, your fonts, and, make it look cute. And to be quite honest, that is what the internet has told us for a long time. Make a pretty vision board of how you want your studio to look, how you want your reels to look. But then, in all of that, people forget the main aspect of a rebrand. It's the person in the actual rebrand. So unless you introduce yourself to yourself and reflect on what it is that you actually want to work on from the past year, what are some of the goals that you've outlined? What are some of the things you achieved and you felt like you could have done them more intentionally, is, I think, foundational before you get to a rebrand conversation.
And this is so relevant because we're in that time of the year where, everyone is starting to, think about the new year. Mm-hmm. And there's always just all of these pretty things that are happening on social media that people just engage in just for the sake of it. And a lot of it is like a vision board. And if you have a business or like you're someone with, I guess, a brand, you are going to try to rebrand again, right? Mm. And you're trying to think of like, okay, what is it that I want again? And you now end up, doing this really beautiful vision board with all of these beautiful things. But you actually need to know that there needs to be reflection before execution. There needs to be stillness before there's visibility. Before you can begin saying, this is what I want and this is where I'm going and this is what I'm changing, you first have to actually look at what it is that you've been doing. You have to analyze and see what it is that is in me. And the reason why we're speaking about this in a business podcast, right, is because the business doesn't exist without you. Exactly what you mentioned, my F, is that like a lot of people who have a business kind of mindset sometimes separate too much the business for themselves. Okay, the only thing you don't separate is your bank account. You and your business are only one when it comes to the bank account, right? But when it comes to actually how you think and view your business, you kind of separate for yourself from it. You treat business as business and you as you. And you think that if you are all over the place, if you don't know where you're going and who you are, if you don't understand like your identity and who you are, then somehow you think your business is going to be okay. But no, because your business is a reflection of who you are, right? You are pouring into it. And if you are not okay, your business is not okay.
Doing business and entrepreneurship is a spiritual act, right? It's an act of actually figuring out what anchors you and what will anchor you going forward, right? And the reason we're saying this is because this is a podcast where we do business, but doing business God's way, right? And many people speak about, this year I partnered with God, or next year I want to partner with God, or God is the CEO of my organization, but don't actually act like that. It's like you're an ambassador who doesn't know the values you stand for, who doesn't know the slogan of the organization you're running, or an ambassador who doesn't stand for anything. What are you advocating for in your business? How are you leading people forward into a specific vision and a specific identity? We have mentioned previously that as a business owner, you need to not look at your business from an operational view only, but you also need to look at where your business wants to go, right? And in looking at where your business wants to go, you need to understand that the person who's leading your business into that reality is founded in purpose. If you want to create a business that is worth being spoken about and that is impactful and meaningful, it needs to be grounded in something. And I think that's the superficiality that comes with rebrands, because we're just doing it on a surface level. We don't even understand what we're doing. We're afraid to be still. We're afraid to actually challenge ourselves and think through what it is that, is in conflict with us. Because as an entrepreneur, what happens, right, especially when you're doing business God's way, is that you experience an emotion of conflict. You experience an emotion of this can be done better, and therefore I bring a product to solution for that conflict, right? However, there is no still time. We don't give ourselves the time to actually experience those emotions and go through those seasons, and we're so fixated on my sales look like this, my YouTube views look like this, that you're not actually intentional in terms of what you're building or how you're growing. And so that's why I think it's so fundamental that even as we're going into 2026, it's a year of figuring out, who am I? It's essential to figure out, who is it that God says I am in His kingdom, and what role does my business play to essentially solve that kingdom problem? And I think that even if we look at the life of Christ Himself, right, we see that Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights before He started building, these disciples and healing all the sick and all of that. And this was a man who was God in flesh, meaning He held kingdom within Him, but He still took that time to sit in stillness. And in the wilderness, it's a place where you are alone, you're forced to engage with yourself, and you're forced to go to the knee and be intentional about it. So instead of making a pretty picture and writing this strategy, He understood that strategy comes from a still mind, which a lot of us are actually afraid of.
Sure. And I guess that's what we're challenging you to do today. Like, we are challenging you to look within you before you go downloading that Bugatti and the mansion on Pinterest to put into your Canva to do the vision board. First, actually look deep into, first of all, I guess, who you've been, right? Look back, actually ask yourself, how have I been in 2025? What have I gone through? What have I experienced? What challenges have I faced? How did I face certain things? What is it that has held me back, right? And see and really speak honestly, in the sense that, actually face yourself, right? Don't be afraid. In fact, I encourage you to actually critically analyze and look at it from a perspective of, what could I have possibly done better? Where could I have been to blame in this situation? Where did I make a mistake? And once you've done that, take a look at also maybe, what did I do well? What can I do? What can I do better? Reflect, really, really analyze and look within at where you've been and where you are. Because, and it's always funny because all of these concepts of the world, the rebrand and all of that, it's always just God's principles, just commercialized, right? And when they get commercialized, obviously, because a lot of people don't understand the meaning of it, it ends up being just a shallow thing. But a rebrand, right, is a rebirth. And it's when you, and it's with salvation, you first sort of have to recognize that you're not enough. I think you'll never ever get to a point where you actually accept Christ fully until you realize your lack. Right? Hence, I guess there's the sin part where you first have to see, really look at yourself, actually yo,
winking,
you actually need to actually come to the end of yourself, right? And you cannot come to the end of yourself if you do not see yourself. Because that was the purpose of the law. The law wasn't there for people to follow and to think. The law was there to point out sin, right? It was there to actually make it evident that right? And once you've recognized that, then you sort of you have room to then be okay, actually let me take this chance that God is giving me, which is a rebirth. Let me be born again. And being born again is the old has passed away and the new has come. You're a completely new being. You're a new person. But I think to get to that place of being you and having a reset and being ready for a new year, you first kind of have to come to the end of yourself. Look at 2025 and be damn. Actually, I messed up a lot. and I missed a lot of things, and I could have done better, and I'm ready to have a new clean slate.
Can I add on to that? I think a rebirth happens once, right? But what I also think happens is that you have to constantly come back to the identity of your rebirth, right? So think of it this way, right? Every time, you get to a point, when you do something in your business and you feel like the creativity juices are running, and you hear people say, God said, we've heard those things. God is leading me to. I'm not saying God is not leading you, right?
Hey, God said,
right? In that moment, right, you have a specific emotion, you have a specific experience, and you see yourself a particular way. You're sure of this identity that God has called you into, right? But the honest reality is that life then happens afterwards, right? So throughout the year in your business, you have a lot of wins. There's certain times you win, there's certain times you lose, and there's certain times you just learn that, okay, this is probably the better way to do other things, right? And so the stillness gives you an opportunity to sit down and remind yourself of the identity that God has called you to be, and not the identity that the world allows you to experience, because you experience your identity. And that's why people struggle to answer a simple question of who are you? That simple question, and so it's one of the most simplest questions. We learn everything, from the world around us, from the educational system, but we should easily, comfortably be able to answer that question.
Without saying, my name is and I live at...
Exactly, right? You need to be able to say, Liz is 1, 2, 3. But it becomes so complicated because you're trying to filter out all these experiences you've had. You're trying to filter out all the things you've felt that you are, because there are days when you felt like a failure, there's days you felt like a fraud, there's days you felt like
I haven't thought
okay.
I heard there's this like really big artist, I just don't know his name, but like essentially I think it's okay, no, I'm not gonna try.
Yeah.
Okay, but like essentially they ask him, how does he build these beautiful sculptures, right?
Yeah.
So he does sculptures, right? And he would say that it was already in it.
Yeah.
All he had to do was remove the excess.
Exactly.
And I think from everything you're saying is the fact that like
Sure.
the you that Christ, God made you to be is already there, right? And it's all about you removing the excess. And I love that you mentioned that like you're born again once, but what happens is that as you're in the world, you kind of like people are adding all of these things and experiences, and then you end up confused and you've forgotten.
Yeah.
And you going into the wilderness is you to go back and actually remove all the excess, right? Remove all the things that the world has said, all that the devil has convinced you that you're a failure, that you can't
You're
do
not
it.
made for business.
Exactly, that you can't do this, like removing. So I think rather, instead of it being like, you're not finding yourself, okay.
I have a thought.
Yes.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Remember, there's one reason why I wasn't calling myself an entrepreneur, right? And I couldn't figure out like what it was, right?
Yeah.
And there was so much conflict in me, and I just couldn't put my finger as to why I was so uncomfortable with it, right?
Yeah.
And so we did an exercise, right? Which I'm going to do with you a bit later on and challenge you, Gangan. So with this exercise, right, they asked us to make a time map of anything, right? So we could either do a time map from when we were young to now, or from the beginning of the year to now. So like a reflectional piece, right? And then create themes from that, right? And what I realized is that the reason I didn't want to call myself an entrepreneur is because I look for meaning in everything that I do, right? And in seeking meaning, it was a thing of I couldn't identify with it because I did not define my identity as that. Because the world has been like, okay, you studied this long. What's the point of going into business now? You already doing so well in a
Like you're a
structured
corporate
organization.
queen.
You're a corporate queen. Like, what's the
Yeah.
point in this? So my identity was in complete confusion. And I remember everything that I felt like I was doing right or doing wrong, it didn't actually impact me. But what I was seeking out was a question that I started recently asking myself is, who am I in all of this noise, right? Because remember, a business is as a result of you.
And I think to add on to what you're saying, what we concluded was that we went back to the beginning.
We went back to the beginning.
And we were like, in fact, before all of this happened, like, you've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, you've always started businesses.
Yeah.
And we had to reflect back to, like, how when you started the gifting business, and we went back to
surprises.
when we were selling sweets at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's that thing again, like, it's always been in you.
It
it's
is
just removing the excess that you
Exactly.
now accumulated.
Yeah. And how are you expected to be a leader and to show up if you have all these identities attached to you and you are carrying this heavy load, but because you feel like there's just no time to sit in actual stillness, you carry on and you push through and you're struggling and you don't, and some days you just feel like you're overwhelmed, but nothing is overwhelmed. It's just that you've not worked through the noise that you are, experiencing within you.
And if you think of like the life of Christ throughout the scripture, he would always isolate from the crowd.
Yes.
Always. Like, it's something that he did a little lot. He did a lot.
Yeah.
He'd always pull back from the crowd
Yeah.
and be alone with God to pray, right? And it's something that we need to think of not as something that, like, you do once a year, right? During that, because it's now trending, I think it needs to become like a rhythm of how you operate, which is why, oh man, I was even thinking the other day that, like, when I go days or a while without, like, reading the Bible or, like, really, like, spending time in my quiet time, like, I always ask myself, I was like, oh my, like, I just feel so, the reason why you feel so far away and blah, 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 is why he gave them manna only for that day, because it's something that needs to constantly, so that they needed to every day remember that they rely on God. They could have taken for a week or for a month and kept it and eaten it. Maybe they would have forgotten where they gotten it from, but every single day they had to come back. And that's the thing about the word and going back to stillness and going back to prayer and God. It needs to be a ritual that is almost daily, right? Like, it's a rhythm that constantly needs to happen, because the one that you did last year is not enough to carry you through this year, right? The
one you did yesterday.
Yesterday, exactly. I was going into that. The one you did yesterday is not enough to carry you into today, which is the importance, right? The importance and the reason why I guess so many people have realized that vision boards and all of that work, because what a vision board does is that, like, if you use it right, you constantly come back to it, right? And it's not enough that now in this season you're going to reset, right? If you don't come back to it daily. If you don't constantly come back to this reset. So, like, essentially, I think what I'm trying to tell you here is that, like, the reset you're going to reset now, you got to be doing it daily, right? It needs to be you constantly removing. And what we just, like, concluded or come to as we were speaking is the fact that, like, a reset is not necessarily you going to find something that is outside of you, but it's you removing the excess and all of that, so that all that remains is literally what Christ has given you, the who Christ has made you to be.
That's so beautiful, because if I think of a reset, right? A reset requires stillness, right? And stillness, for me, how it has been looking in my life, right? So I find that my thoughts are literally all over the place all the time. And everybody knows this, because I can be having a conversation with you and I'll literally go, we need to do something else very quick and very fast, right? And stillness is literally being aware of your surroundings, number one, right? Many people are not aware of the place that they're currently in. And because they are not aware of the place that they're currently in, they don't see a need. They don't see a need to actually connect with God on a deeper level. Because your mind is always busy, it's always far, it's always there. Meaning you're not creating an environment that is conscious of where you are and what you need to be grounded, right? And so that's why many people say that, it's either you pray in the morning or in the evening when it's still, where you are aware of where you are and you are aware that I actually need to connect to the source, right? Number two, it's being aware of what you feel and what you think and how that influences your business, the way you run your business. You know, some people are operating from a place of anxiety, and anxiety speaks to, I feel like something is going to happen and I therefore need to be agitated about it, right? And so when you're consciously anxious, how do you expect to build the relationships you're supposed to build? How do you expect to make those, make those financial decisions that you feel like are bigger than you, know? And as an entrepreneur, it really is scary. This is the truth nobody speaks about. As entrepreneurs, we're so afraid to put Jesus on the forefront because we understand the financial implications that it has.
Because as soon as you say Jesus, nobody want to pay you.
No one want to pay you, And you need to literally, and in that moment, I think that's the beauty about it. Nobody wants to pay you, but we as kingdom ambassadors understand the principles that when God is attached to it, it will literally flourish, right? And so just putting yourself in that space to actually understand what your emotions are and understand what it is that your mind is constantly full of and how it's affecting the relationships around you. This week was such a long week for me. We would have full workday sessions and then we'll have evening things that we had to attend and do. Like it was a crazy week and I felt so tired by the end of the day, right? And I asked myself, the level of tiredness that you're at, Liz, right, is the same level of tiredness that you experience every other week. And I was in conflict because I was trying to understand why, right? Then I realized it's because my mind is always pacing. I'm always pacing on what is next. What do we need to do? How do I do that better? Oh, I made that mistake. I need to rectify it. So naturally, what's happening is that you're not still and you're depleting. And how are you supposed to show up if you're depleted? So in that moment, I was like, stillness is such a critical piece. It's so important, right? And not being afraid to be still. Because also when we feel like we're still, we feel like the whole world is still pacing and moving and we need to be doing something as entrepreneurs to hold all these resources, right? But the thing about stillness is that it gives you energy to move further and it gives you courage to continue, right?
Let me tell you something as you're speaking, right? I'm actually realizing and I'm reflecting on why I have experienced so much success, right? Because I always ask myself, God, can shine, And I'm realizing it comes from my ability to identify how weak I am. I am so quick to be like, Lord, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm so quick to actually recognize that, I don't have it in me, right? And in me recognizing that I don't have it in me, I am quickly reminded that Christ lives in me, right? And I'm quickly reminded of it's not me going in there, it's God going in there, right? And I'm quick to be reminded that that's not my business, that's God's business, right? I'm very quick to sort of realize that girl, it's not you. And because it's not you, it's this really big God, this powerful God who has all of this authority and all of this knowledge, and of course he can do it. Because here's the hardest thing about entrepreneurship is the fact that it's so scary, right? It's so scary, especially when you have people relying and depending on you. You don't really know. You don't really have it all under control. You don't really know what's going to happen. You don't really know if you're even going to make their salaries, right? And because of that, but you can't show that. You can't shake like that. You can't move announcing
You
that.
hold the culture with you.
Exactly. You have to actually be so firm and so strong and so confident, right? Unfortunately, you have to show up confident. And we're speaking just now about how, you need to have, yes, the ability, but the confidence also, right? Because being able to do something and not being confident, then you don't get chosen for the job because nobody believes you can do it. So you need to have the ability to do it and the confidence to do it. And if you're not the entrepreneur who walks into the room bold with nothing,
confident in your ability.
Yes. And I feel that kind of confidence, guys, for me personally, it can only come from being deeply rooted.
Yeah.
It can only come from having a secret place. It can only come from having dwelt in the wilderness or in the stillness, right? So we're coming back to this because, yes, we're talking about business, but we're talking about business God's way, right? And we're making you understand today that, like, it's business, yes, but you are attached to the business. And for you...
You are the business.
You are the... Literally. If you see me, you see the business.
Literally.
Yeah. And there is no way that your business can thrive and you can make all of this money if you yourself... right? And the only way that we can honestly, genuinely tell you that you can show up, bam, ready for the job and up for it. Go into the wilderness. Spend time in stillness. Reset. Don't just do the trendy rebrand. Actually, like, really go into stillness and invite God and, like, reflect and be still and let all that excess be removed and let yourself be filled with who God is and who He made you.
Sure. No, what you said is just so powerful. And I think that reflecting and resetting is definitely something that we're not just supposed to do at the end of the year, but throughout the year. And I think just to wrap it up, one of the things I have unraveled in this specific episode is that reset is not I need to take information from outside or, build myself, but it's actually going within to get to break off the identities that I have attached myself to that have nothing to do with where I'm going and where God needs me to be.
I love that and I agree. It's almost like you're not necessarily you're not like looking for something or adding on, but rather removing.
Yeah.
Because like there's already so much greatness that I believe God has deposited in us.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I unraveled in this episode that is so beautiful is that like it's actually quite God. Like Jesus always did it first. Like everything is always in the Word. It's just like how even the whole manifesting. I know a lot of people in this season are like manifesting my 2026, and it's all of that. Like all of those are like principles from the Word of God that the world took and like commercialized and even demonized at this point. But this everything about resetting and being made new, I guess, is very much scriptural, and it's what Jesus did. And if He did it, like then like
who are we not to do it?
Like, and it's not something of like you're doing it now this year. Like it needs to be a daily thing.
Yeah.
And as we go into this series, right, we're gonna dive deep, and hopefully what you'll have in the end is something big, something like bigger than you, something amazing, something that literally looks like everything that God has called you to be. But like it can't be just that and that's it, right? In the end, this should be something that you're able to come back to daily. Look at it daily, remind yourself of it daily so that you're constantly moving in the right direction. I think the purpose of this season that we're entering into the series, I guess the season where everyone else is kind of gets into, right, the whole reset and rebrand, is for direction, right? Because as people who are building and doing things, it's so easy to get busy in the working. But like if you don't take the time to actually like look at the bigger picture, pause, like, right? Like climb up to the highest point and actually look around and see, okay, this is where we're going. You'll end up just running around in circles over and over and over again. So we're challenging you again. Be still, like go into the wilderness, actually reflect, pause, look back, look around, look inside of you, and just remove, like give yourself a clean slate, like exactly how it's said in the Word of God, like be made new. That means even your mistakes, like are forgotten, even not forgotten because you have learned from it, okay? But I mean forgiven and forgotten. And you're entering a new season with almost like a brand new strength.
Yeah. I think I really love the reflection that you've shared, and I think sure, it really anchors us into the next episode, as this is a 4-part series where we're going to delve so deep into what is stillness, delve deep into how to reflect, delve deep into what that reset looks like. But I think we've come to the end for this one.
Definitely. You guys do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Tell us down below what you think rebranding is and how you'll be doing it in this season. And we hope you're actually going to join us throughout and be doing it with us. Because, of course, what did we say? This is a doing podcast, not a talking podcast. So, we're going to be giving you some homework throughout the series. So be sure to check that out. But I think that's it for today's episode. Always remember that God has poured out abundantly and we are the vessels. Bye.